I say most spoken native language. Certainly Chinese. But what is the most spoken language? It should be English. But I'm not so sure because do you speak English? Just a little, or when Lucy put a gun at you, yes, I speak English. You know the joke. And the Taiwanese taxi driver had made a joke. Lucy, don't kill me. You know the film? Lucy. Okay. And when you just as capable as Lucy and you can learn Chinese in a few seconds and you can learn any language in the less seconds. So there are many global languages, not just one. Okay. If you have already mastered English, which one would you choose to be your second foreign language? What? Just say which one? Chinese, French, Spanish. Which one? If you have Dutch, you have already learned Dutch. Dutch is German. Which one? German? French. Okay, French. And Spanish. We could say that besides of English, two major global languages could be, in my opinion, French and Spanish. Spanish because you can use Spanish in Latin America, in South United States of America. You can use Spanish in many states. And French as English, French has been a colonizer's language. You know colonization. Many Chinese had learned in Japanese because we were colonized by the Japanese. So we must learn the colonizer's language. So English and French. So the first modern global language was French, not English. French, because France was so powerful in the age of Louis XIV. It's French. Okay. Louis XIV. Louis XIV. Louis the 40th. So France was so powerful and it influenced all countries in Europe. So when we discussed some diplomatic affairs, we should written in French. Although country A and country B, in fact, did not speak French, but they accept French as a new form of Latin. You know Latin. Latin is the dead language. So I call French the first modern global language, but the ancient global language it sounds very, very unusual, ancient and global. And in the context of Europe, it might be Latin. Okay, so English is now the most powerful global language. But you can learn English in other courses, not necessarily in a course about English and education and social development, or in a course about art history, or a course about chemistry, or a course about robot. It is not necessary to do that in a full English course. So there are some interesting doxa. It's a Bourdieuian concept. We will come back later. Orthodox culture. So you have site peer review. Well, it's very good. Cultural capital and quantitative position and cultural capital. Okay, very interesting. We'll come back later. Globalization, global language, and the doxa will be explained. And self, a cultural capital. But how? I'm curious. And ability. The self. And especially English speaking ability as cultural capital. Okay. Enhance your competitiveness. It's a noun, not a adjective. And remember, and I promise, and I say yes to open this full English course. My purpose, just mine, is not to enhance your English speaking ability. I am not an English teacher. I am a sociologist. Just I can speak English or German or a little French, but I am not an English teacher. I don't correct your English so far as it's not necessary. And I would encourage you to express your opinion. If you don't know how to speak in English, when I ask you or when you want to explain something, remember I have told you when we first met, I say, remember, let it go. Remember the song? And I have given you a 25 language version. Remember? And I told you the major language here, 15 minutes and another 15 minutes is English. But other language we could use as foreign word. Remember? So if you don't know that it is translated into English as the 12-year compulsory education, you don't know it, you can just in your English sentence insert you can insert this phrase in Chinese as foreign word in your English sentence. You can say as follows. I think that it's this educational reform, 12年国教, has many problems, and I will tell you how should it be in English. It's okay. It's okay. We can expect the definition of foreign word. Apropos is a foreign word. Okay. When it is in capital, we don't need this. Okay, apropos. It's French, but sometimes I will suddenly speak out apropos because in Germany, not in France, in Germany they used this phrase so much as possible. When we discuss something apropos, it means in English, by the way. So when I should say by the way, sometimes I will say apropos. Forgive me, it's a custom. I got it in German, not in France. Apropos. Or for example, and I could sometimes I would say zum Beispiel, it's German. Okay, you can forget it. I will say it again, for example. For example, 12年国教, you can use it as a foreign word. And when we discuss something you don't know how to speak in English, and you think you are too nervous to explain it in a sentence, it's a very important step when you learn a foreign language. You explain how it looks like and try to tell your teacher or your classmates what you are talking about, and they will tell you what's the English name, what the English name is. So you must learn to describe it. But if in our class you don't have the time or you are too nervous to explain it, just say it in Chinese, it's okay. But not a full sentence, please. Just some phrase, okay. It is a reversed version of someone in non-English speaking country. They would put so many English in their native language sentence, so much as possible. They would say, for example, so, 明天我们跟那个 team 有一个 appointment at Starbucks. Remember? 然后你的 notebook 还有你的 iPad 记得 prepare. We make it reversed. We make our sentence in English, but when you cannot speak some words in English, it's okay. You say it in Chinese, but not so many. Okay. And our example is very ridiculous example. It is widespread, you know, in a non-English speaking, especially in ancient context. It has to do with our discussion about why should we learn English speaking ability in other courses, not English speaking course. Because we think It has something to do with competitiveness. It's a doxa in globalization. What is doxa? When we talk about orthodox, it means something established, something in the center, at the center, something occupied the center stage, something is most powerful, most authoritative. So, in ancient China, Confucianism is orthodox. And when you have orthodox, you have hetero one, and you have all anti-orthodox. And the Confucianism is orthodox, and anti-orthodox would be Taoism. It's a very famous analysis by the sociologist Max Weber. So, both of them exist and they compete with each other to be the center, to be the authority. But doxa is not just someone powerful, someone influential. Doxa is not just orthodox. I am powerful, you should listen to me. Doxa means most of us, certainly with exception, but most of us do not quarrel with it. We accept it unconsciously. Unconsciously, we accept the doxa. When we talk about globalization, okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion, everybody has his own or her opinion, okay. But most of us agree with one thing in the globalization. Each person compared with each other, each country compared with each other. So in the age of globalization, competitiveness is very important, or most important. No matter what your opinion is, most of us accept that it is doxa. It means much more than just orthodox. When you have orthodox, you have an anti-orthodox. But when you have a doxa, it's much more powerful, much more unconsciously operated. So competitiveness is a doxa in globalization. And the first step. And the second step, English is in some curious way connected with competitiveness. And you have heard what I say. I say in a curious way. It means I have using an ironical sentence, ironical tone, in a curious way. I don't think it should be related so directly to competitiveness, but it is connected to the competitiveness. Okay. Related or connected in a curious way. And third, so we must improve our English speaking ability in order to make our competitiveness much stronger than ever. And it introduced another concept. And when we improve our English speaking ability, it improves to make us, it improves our competitiveness, and it makes us internationalized. So if you would like to teach in elementary school in Taiwan, you may have heard or learned that there are something called international education. And each year, Ministry of Education gives much money to many elementary schools to pay the ticket to let them fly to another country to visit their sister school and to invite some students or some teachers from other countries to visit Taiwan, and they call it international education. And it is believed that we have much more international education, and our students in elementary school would be internationalized, would be much more competitive in objective form, much more competitive in the global arena. It is not true, because I have told in my lecture, in my speech about international education, I said that a real international education is to broaden your vision, is to broaden your worldview, is to open windows to let you see the world so wide, so multiple, not multiple is possible. You can learn it in Chinese, you can learn it in English, and when you learn it in English, I told them the first important step is not to go to an English-speaking country. Otherwise, you would not be internationalized. You are just Englishnized. You are not internationalized. But I don't speak other language besides Chinese and English. What should I do? You should. I told my audience, you should visit the English page of the German or French or Japanese or Korean media. They all have English page. And you can learn that their opinion, their perspective are different from United States, from England. They have their own opinion. In German, you don't speak German, that's okay. Spiegel Online. They are Spiegel in German, but in English they say Spiegel. Spiegel. The Spiegel Online. Spiegel means mirror. It's a very important German magazine, news magazine, and they have English page. So when you just speak Chinese and English, and you want to broaden your vision, you want to know much about this world, you want to be internationalized, you should visit their Spiegel Online. In English, you should visit other countries' newspaper in English, and you will know they have different opinions. You are not just chase what the American says, what the English says. It is the real internationalization. But now we see, so the force, the visit, and the cause. So if we have enough money, we could send you to Australia or England or America, and you can enjoy your visit there and to improve your English speaking ability and to enjoy the life there. Would your opinion, would your vision be broadened? Yes, but it costs too much. And remember, not every foreign overseas student, they had truly learned something essential to that country. Many overseas students, they just studied and they're back. And they don't enjoy the life, the red wine, the cheese, the theater, the cinema, the dialogue with local people, and the opinion from the local newspaper. Much of the overseas students, no matter Taiwan or Chinese, they don't enjoy the life there. So, not necessarily when you have the opportunity to go overseas. Remember, you must seize this opportunity to learn more as quick as possible. It's possible you learn, but it depends on how you learn. Okay, so our course, our full English course, could it be your cultural capital? Yes. Could it increase your cultural capital? I hope. I will try my best. But it is not just my task. It's also your task to build your cultural capital, to build your embodied cultural capital, to build your knowledge as well as. But when we talk about institutionalized here, it certainly already is. You could tell anybody else that I have attended a full English course. And you know what? Our teacher don't speak Chinese in our class. God damn it. But I got it. Okay, I have done in a full English course. You can have this institutionalized form, and in your score sheet of paper that you have attended so many classes, and one of them is a full English course. Second, but as we have said, the real imposed, the real learned cultural capital, it's not so easy, and I would like to try to and invite you to work with me to make your real cultural capital increase. So, in the perspective, our course, remember, in education and social development. So we could say that when you talk about cultural capital, it is already in a sense of concerning social development. Because of social development, something would be internationalized, something would be peripheralized, and something would be centralized, and so on. And in our discussion, along with globalization, we could say that the definition of cultural capital certainly changed and changed. And nowadays, one of the very important assets, the essentials in our cultural capital, for example, of university student, is your English speaking ability. And much more than everyday dialogue, you are supposed to be able to discuss your professional concept with others in English, in an international conference, and so on. And it is institutionalized, it is established that the cultural capital should include a special English speaking ability. And you know what? In some English speaking country, the new or non-English speaking country, the new cultural capital content constituted is a very, very difficult one to learn. Much more difficult than English. And it is internationalized. And don't worry, you are already capable of it. Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, there are more and more schools, not just a university. There are much more and more schools and which are high school in Europe or universities in America. They teach Chinese. So Chinese is emerging, not so established, not so powerful as English, and not so powerful as French or Spanish or German. Not so powerful. Remember, you should not over happily to say, it's the age of Chinese, not so fast. But it is an emerging phenomenon that more and more students in a school, in the universities, learn Chinese. So it changes. So from our perspective in education and social development, we could say that the form, the content, the cultural capital concerning education has been changed in the course of social development. When the society develops itself into a new stage, and it might happen that we have new definition of cultural capital. So remember, we are education and social development. Okay. Global language. Super. And communication and information. Good. And social capital and cultural capital. Okay. Could English to do with social capital? Could English be something to do with social capital? Of course, in some circle, they just speak English. If you want to be the circle, so-called global they are called the real ruler of the world. They dominate this world. The so-called global managerial class. You know manager, CEO and all other financial manager and production manager and manager manager. And when you are on the top, this year you work for Amazon, and next year you work for Alibaba, and next year you work for Google. And suddenly, you always speak which language? English. So if you want to be some member of some certain circle, and you need to improve your social capital by improving your English speaking ability. Okay. About PISA, I think you all already done a very good job, and you have listed some very important information about PISA. And I think I should remember we have talked about you make your presentation by your reading, and you tell everybody what your team has learned from the reading. And the second half of our course should be something concrete, something as case studies to learn much more about education, social study, and social development. So I think, for example, PISA and other qualifications should be our agenda in our second half of the course. And maybe one of you would choose this topic to make your semester assignment, your semester report. We will discuss it later. And so we come back to our, here is Alibaba. Not for you, for media and society. You know what? This is, I didn't give them all the news. I don't understand. I should already list them here. Ta-da! Okay, English. There are major difference between the reportage in English and German-speaking world, as in Taiwan, concerning Alibaba. Very interesting. So we focus on just one or two little things, but not the essence. Okay, now and remember, don't rush up. Don't try to tell too much things at the same time and to deliver too much messages. I told myself not to do so, and I told you as well, because it is for English course. I think the most important thing is to let you understand, not to give you things so much as possible, but to let you understand, let you think, and to figure out something essential to the study. So, okay.
America's foremost philosopher of education. He was born in the 19th century, in 1859, the same year as Darwin's Origin of Species was published. And so he experienced the Civil War. His father was a quartermaster in the Union Army, and the family traveled there, so he saw the Civil War. He lived until 1952, so he also experienced the atom bomb, World War II, and so forth. So John Dewey's life really spanned a number of changes in our country.
This is John Dewey.
He was not just somebody who wrote about philosophy. He lived it. He established his own school with his wife Alice at the University of Chicago, a school that's still going today called the Laboratory School. And so John Dewey enacted the kinds of things that he talked about: democratic learning, learning by doing, the importance of context in education. All of those things were done.
Have you heard something? He emphasized on democratic learning and learning by, or once more,
by doing. And so John Dewey enacted the kinds of things that he talked about: democratic learning, learning by doing, the importance of
learning by. So you know that learning by doing, it sounds like a very, very new concept, very, very revolutionary concept in our society. And people emphasize learning by doing. But in fact, in educational theory, this concept is so old, much older than your grandmother and grandfather. Can you imagine it? So what happened? Education and social development. The idea was presented in educational theories, but in social practice, in the real world, they are not really practitionalized. They are not really our experience. So what's the problem? Not John Dewey's problem, not teacher's problem, but it's a problem we should use our framework, use our concept, use our own experience to reflect on it. And you will learn much more concept or some project that already exists. 70 years, for 70 years or for almost 100 years, but at least 50 years, but nothing happened, but too little things happened.
Text and education, all of those things are done by doing. He also, in addition to writing many volumes of academic books and so forth, Dewey wrote for the public. He wrote newspaper articles, kinds of issues of the day. His ideas are important to education today because we still have not gotten a sense of the importance of learning individually. An individual student brings a certain context and history to his and her learning, and the teacher must know that. Dewey recognized that. At the same time, Dewey recognized the importance of learning in a group or a community, learning from others that are unlike you.
Each student brings his or her own context in the classroom, and it is important to recognize learning in group, learning from others. And so we don't have the time to see all the video. I will put it on our platform, and you will be astonished that many things sound so new are already so old. So this is John Dewey,
That's
and
the spirit of the step forward.
another one.
John Dewey was 70 when this newsroom footage was shot, in which he distinguished education from mere schooling. The Center for Dewey Studies at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Much of my professional life has been devoted to the study of John Dewey. In this short piece, we hope to introduce you to the life and work of this visionary thinker, who in many ways lived ahead of his time. Burlington and Dewey's youth was a center of immigration and industrialization. The ethnic, class, and religious diversity that young Dewey experienced there may have helped
Industrialization, immigration, the ethnic phases concerning John Dewey that time. They are all not so unfamiliar to us. In our age, in our globalization age of globalization, we experience all of this much rapidly than John Dewey. So I think I should give you now 10 minutes pause, and after pause we come back to present our today's reading, the literacy. And as you have found that our educational theory, John Dewey, is just one example. And then the cultural capital, the capital theory, a la Pierre Bourdieu, a la is French. It's very, very usual in English text. A la something or somebody. For example, a la carte means the menu from a certain restaurant to be recommended to you. A la carte. Okay, a la Bourdieu, we have learned capital, especially cultural capital. And now today we will enter the third concept, literacy. And not third concept, third area of our research, from the traditional educational theory to promote, to label somebody individually, collectively, in a group, and in his or her context, to make one person to think, to learn the first area, the basic definition of education, and then to see education as capital, and now to see education as, or in the form of literacy. Okay, 10 minutes pause, and then we will have the presentation of which group. Okay. Okay, 10 minutes. Something else? You found it in Chinese and you would pay your effort to translate it. I don't encourage you to look to Google in Chinese. You should Google in English. That's faster than you translate. Something new? Read and write. Okay. Have you found something curious? something not usual? Have you found something not usual? Besides read and write, have you found something unusual? Some word, just one or two words. For example, you have just your test page. Moment. Good. Right? Okay. Not presented by you, but by me in your cell phone. In Wikipedia, there are something called visual literacy. What is visual literacy? It is ability to read and write visually. It's very interesting and very curious. Have you found something unusual, something you never heard, something special? Have you? Just one or two words. Visual literacy is what I found on that cell phone in the page of Wikipedia. What?
The ability to understand visual forms of communication, such as body language, pictures, maps, and video.
Okay, and you have found the definition of visual literacy. Also to read and to understand, but such as bodily movement and so on. The visual information. So its ability to read and understand visual information. Have you find other interesting things about literacy? When you don't have any other, I should let them begin. Okay, please.
Presentation. And our group's topic is literacy ideologies, critically engaging the language arts curriculum. And answer is the Karen Cardinal campaign. This is our group list, and we have 4 people. That's it. And this is our presentation construction. We will talk about what is the literacy and what are ideologies and role of teacher and critical literacy application and final the conclusion.
Have you found it so sweet? Have you found it? Have you found it? Have you found it? Have you seen it? So sweet. Literacy. Sweet. Okay, go on.
And the teacher and this week is the new from literacy to new literacy. We have the traditional literacy and critical literacy. And everyone in this class who can see the page of 372 and the first paragraph is said, there can be no disinterest in objective and very few definition of literacy. The way literacy is viewed and taught is always and inevitably ideological. And we can learn from this sentence to understand the relation between literacy and ideology are inevitable connect together. This is why, just as the teacher said, and the Dewey's educational theory tell us just learning from doing is an old educational series, and why to have the much time pass away when the environment in our education system was not changed because the ideological in our educational system and the traditional literacy. Literacy is the ability to read and write, just the Mr. Wang said. And literacy, traditional literacy encompasses a complete set of ability to understand and use the dominant simple system of a culture for personal and community development. And everyone can see the screen, and critical literacy encourages readers to actively analyze text and offer strategies for what performance described as commonly underlying message. And critical literacy is instructional approach stemmed from Marxist critical pedagogy.
Go back. This is very, very interesting. All the central concepts are there. Beyond perspectives and readers, underlying theoretical approach, inquiry, intent, values, change, text, questions, reasons, talk, messages, approaches, encourages, evaluative, different texts, reconstruct, strategies, produced. Very interesting. Okay. And pedagogy is the science about education, just as sociology is a science about society. So, but this word means much more than just education, but emphasize on the teaching and learning. But you know the critical pedagogy, and I have told you that Pindong University is the high mountain of this area in the not just Taiwan but Chinese speaking world. You should not underestimate your university. Okay, go on.
And everyone already knows these two words mean. One is black and one is white. And everyone knows what the black and what the white mean, and how to use the black and white. But critical ideology can reflect on the ideologies. And what is the ideology? And everyone can see the page on the page 373 is Gaudiano ideologies are systems of ideas that function to create views of the reality that appear as the most rational view. A view that is based on common sense notions of how the social world ought to be. it's easy to say to connect common sense to ideology. So, after our good discussion, we think the role of teacher must have the ability, a critical pedagogy to engage students to gain the critical literacy. And the ability of the teacher must have the value student knowledge and the student linguistic diversity and their cultural pluralism. And teachers have a set of democratic schooling. The democratic schooling while emphasize literacy and biliteracy as a facet of empowerment in their individual and community. And critical literacy application. There's an example in the paper. There is a black girl saying, "My mom is giving pills to turn white," and the teacher in this classroom and Angelo Segura asked why this black girl want to be white. And this teacher knows this is the issue of the race, but he just went and asked the girl why the girl want to be white. And the girl replied, said, "Because I don't like my color." And the teacher continues to, "I think your color is very beautiful and you are beautiful as well." The critical literacy often use the literature or asking students to voice their history, their experiences. And in this article, then discuss what the whiteness and darkness all school year. And students who join the class with their own universe of world, things, and experience are trying to go beyond themselves into a new territory, not journey from their background. And the role of teacher is to be a democratic problem poser. And finally, we come to the conclusion. Why to teach critical literacy? We have searched the website. Say, number one is build skills such as questionnaire, analyzer, and interpreter of message. Number two is analyze and deconstruct it, and as you know, suggesting change and improvements. Number three, put students and engage them in a critical learning or view of the text. Number four is build skills such as questionnaire, analyzer, and interpreter
Sam, you have just speak.
of messages. Number five. Okay. This is our reference. We have three resources. Just one, English Wikipedia, and what does a critical literacy really like in the classroom. And most of all is our paper, Literacy Ideologies. Thank you, everyone.
What is biliteracy? The author does not explain, but just a phrase in the paper, so you may find it now online to search for biliteracy. If you have read this article, you can guess what the author means. But I would like to have you to search and find. What is biliteracy? Okay, found dictionary is the first step. It's okay.
In my opinion, biliteracy is your mother tongue language and your foreign language to combine the biliteracy.
Biliteracy is not the same as bilingualism, but it's connected. It means two. You know bicycle? You have two circles, so it's bicycle. Have you learned of it? You don't know bicycle? Two wheels. Bicycle means two wheels. Okay. Biliteracy means that in Los Angeles, in the paper, there are many students from a Spanish-speaking family, not English-speaking family. And English is the official school language. So it's literacy and the biliteracy process. And the biliteracy is not just bilingual. Bilingualism is you speak Spanish and you speak English. But biliteracy means you must not just speak, not just concerning the language ability, but concerning the ability to read and write and understand and so on. It's literacy. Okay, and they have talked about ideologies. Okay, very good. But I would like to ask one question and try your best to answer. What's the difference between the traditional curriculum study concerning literacy and the author's perspective? What's the difference? You may find it if you have your paper printed, or you can now online in a platform to read. What's the typical in critical pedagogy? What's the typical way? Okay.
In page 311 page 3. The second approach focuses on rudimentary functional job skill with the need to educate literate students about able to compete in labor markets.
Which one? Here, the second approach. So if you have the paper, and you will go on, which is page to 373. And I should explain it. (373) at the center column and in the upper side part. The second approach focuses on rudimentary functional job skills with a need to educate literate citizens able to compete in the labor market. And this ideology reflected all of these are not their approach. They are criticize others' approach. If you see literacy is just a skill, when you teach them to read and to write and to calculate, and they would be able to enter the labor market to be a laborer. You should go on that. You should see the box. In 373, my premise is that, do you have the text? Do you have the text? You can show the text. Or I show the text. Here, my premise. My premise is that any methodological approach to what it means to be a literate person is based on an ideological construct that is inherently political. This is the critical approach, the Marxist critical approach to literacy. When you see literacy as just a skill, you learn the ABC, you learn how to write, how to read, how to understand, and you have the ability, and you can enter the labor market, you can work, you can earn your living. It's just neutral. It is just political. It's nothing to do with ideologies and nothing to do with politics. This kind of view is wrong. Literacy has to do with politics. Literacy has to do with ideologies. And any literate person, what is a literate person? You know what? In Taiwan, we have just passed the act about the 12 years curriculum. Have anyone heard of it? We reduce the necessary studying hours in Mandarin, in mathematics, in English, everywhere reduced. Now you have heard it. Really? Okay, you may go back to your seat and I will show something. Okay. Don't worry. No problem. Okay. Okay, here. I would like to find something in English, not in Chinese. So it takes time. Okay, here. DPP legislator Chen Tingfei, you know her, said the move to make such classes elective in junior high school contravened the plan of former education minister Zhang Weining. It's an old, and this is Wu Shihua, Chen Tingfei. Under the ministry's plan, while distributional requirements for 5 core subjects area are to remain largely unchanged, mandatory course credits are to be reduced to 84 from 104 out of 198 credits, he said, adding that the reduction would make room for more elective courses in 4 of the subject areas. And students are not to be required to take local language courses. Okay, your literacy in the local language, you can choose, for example, in the National Pingtung University affiliated elementary school, just in the nearby, and you can choose as elementary school purpose. You can choose 闽南客家原住民. You can choose one of them as your local language. But in high school, in junior and senior high school, it is not obligatory. It is not necessary. You can choose them, you can select them, but it is not necessary. So in this case, you know it's totally political agenda, it's political issue, you know that. But when we talk about other literacy, none of the literacies is not political. Everything is political. It is when I talk about political, when we speak political, it means not just parties, not just politicals, and not just politicians or politics or everything concerning the ministry or something else. When we talk about politics or political, it means that it is deeply situated in our everyday experience concerning power. When power is concerned, it is political. When public is concerned, it is political. I have usually used one example. When you heard outside your window in your house noise, it's very loud. You cannot study, you cannot watching TV or have speech, have dialogue with your families. Outside, it is too loud noise. What will you do? You can buy some new windows, high technologically designed windows to conceal your room, and you heard nothing. Option 1. And option 2, you meet your neighbors, and collectively, all of you go to the police bureau or go to the government office or to make your effort to change the situation when it is concerning of the government's movement, when governments try to build something and it may too loud. You protest collectively. When some businessmen build something and too loud, you can protest to the businessman or to the government, to anyone who produce the noise, and you join in with each other to form a power, an influence to change the situation instead of buying new windows. That's different. This is option 2. Option 1 is a political, A-P-O-L-I-T-I-C-A-L. It's nothing to do with politics. It's a consumer choice. You can choose this window, you can choose that window, and you solve your problem individually. Your neighbor, they don't have so much money. They must endure the noise as usual. They don't have the money to buy a window, but you have the money. So that's the difference between you and your neighbor. But when you choose option 2, it's a political action. This is political. When something concerning power, when something concerning action, when something concerning public affairs. So this is political. So when we talk about political, literate, how should one be literate? What should he or she learn? It is totally political. It concerns political affairs. You must learn this instead of that. It is totally political. Not just I have shown you this dispute in our legislative yuan, but other children, excuse me, all of the literacy, visual literacy and so on, all of them are political. So, and the functional approach, function, what is function? Oh, grandma, why do you have so large eyes? Because I want to see you much more clear. And grandma, why do you have so large mouth? Because I want to eat you. That's functionalism. Something must be useful for certain purpose. You know, functionalism is very, very difficult to learn when you are in sociology or political science or all the modern social science. But I always tell you that, yes, it is difficult, but difficult means not, you cannot learn. You should learn it gradually, but not step by step. You must learn something suddenly very, very difficult, and you should put the difficult and not to be understood part in your brain and to think it over and over again, and suddenly you realize and you jump, you make a great leap to another level, and you study and study and study, and someday you make your leap to another level. It's just like Super Mario. You know Mario? Super Mario, you jump and you jump. But you must study to make you be able to jump. So the first things we learn about the functional design is not so difficult. It might be useful. It might be for some certain purpose. It means functional. So what has literacy to do with usefulness? Yes, it is useful when you can read, when you can write, when you can understand. It makes you to enter the labor market and it makes you able to work. So it is useful. It has its function, just as the wolf's eyes or mouth. It is useful. It has its use. It has its function. So the functional approach does little. So the author's critical approach and the older one's functional approach. Functional approach, okay, literacy is very important. We teach and teach and teach, and students learn and learn and learn. So, but the functional approach does little to engage text and the stories critically or to engage the historical and lived text of students' lives. And I must invite you to pay attention much more, 4 or 5 minutes more. So the cultural literacy curriculum is found in the core knowledge approach. And reflect an ideology. And moment, I should tell you to here. Maestro is Spanish. Master, M-A-S-T-E-R in English. Maestro, my mom is giving me pills to turn me white. You have just heard the presentation. And here, there are one book, Nina Bonita. As a vehicle for students to explore issues of whiteness, he first covered the title of the book and asked if the black girl on the cover is pretty. Many students don't believe she is pretty due to the darkness of her skin. Okay, the first step. Then the teacher read the story to the children. And again, he asked them if this girl is pretty. And the discussion, what is pretty? And you can use a version of the ugly duckling. You know ugly duckling. And we can put an black sweater. So it's very interesting. So you have many instruments to make the students think, reflect what is already there, and whether there is something wrong or not. Not just to tell them this is this, that is that, but why this is this, why that is that. And because you have talked about literature. By visual literacy, we will discuss it next week. And which group would like to make your presentation next week? And I will upload the paper today. Which one? Okay. And now we will look at this. This is I found on the website of a library, but it was originally a commercial, a TV commercial. for Scotch. But it's very, very interesting. Scotch whiskey, but it's very, very interesting commercial. The commercial. Was illiterate. He learned how to read. Now he can read. He found a book in the bookstore, remember? And now he finished his reading.
Hey Thomas, I read your book.
How touching. He was illiterate, but his son is a writer, and his son writes a book. He wants to read it, so he began to learn how to read. And finally, after so many days effort, he can read, and he has read his son's book, and you can see how his son was astonished, because he did not know that his father had learned how to read. It's a very, very touching TV commercial, and I found it on the library website. Very interesting. And the title, not the original TV commercial title, but the title given by the library, The Power of Literacy. That's for today's discussion, and we will come back to, as I said, we will come back to educational theory and capital and literacy and new theories next week. We will repeat and repeat, review and review, so you can learn, really learn into your brain, into your heart, what education and social development. Okay. 终于结束。